So I will try to explain what we are doing here in Spain in Ecovidrio. So first of all, I'm going to explain very briefly where we are. Secondly, what is our compass, where we are trying to achieve in the coming years. Third, which is the opportunity that we identified last year and the one that we are working on. And finally, what are the kind of solutions that we have implemented. So where we are in Spain in terms of separate collection rate. So last year, so 2024, we end the year very close to the 70%, which is, as you can below in the slide, our target for the end of this year. So as per local laws, we have to achieve this target at the end of this year, 70% on separate collection rate. And by the end of 2030, we have to achieve 80% of separate collection targets. So here is where we stand. So then thinking on how we are going to achieve these targets in 2030, we define what is our compass, which is a strategic plan for the next following years to get and to overpass this target of 80%. So which means an compounded average growth rate more than 2.5% every year, which is, if we look at our history, it's a challenge, I will say, to get these growth rates in a consistent way over the next 6 years. So said that, what is the opportunity that we identify? So first, we had to enhance our efficiency in terms of how we might expand our service capacity while keeping resources. And when I talk about resources, I'm talking about trucks and drivers in a contained way, meaning as we have to grow at this level, how we can grow at this level without an extremely huge operating cost. But and last but not least, one of the other things that we wanted to secure is the delivering service that we provide to the municipalities, meaning how we can do that containing costs, but also improving our quality of service to the municipalities, right? So we came up with an idea, which was, okay, we have a lot of data, and I will explain in a few how we are using this data and the AI and other analytics tools to implement the solution. But hey, we have a lot of data. We know very well in Spain what is happening in our municipalities, in our cities, what we can do to optimize the collection of this glass that is consumed, right? So our initial theoretical model estimate that we could get savings around 7 and 20%. These savings basically, if we look from a Ecovidrio standpoint, we were talking about increased collection, so containing the need of investments to collect more glass, and but also using this overcapacity that we could liberate, I will say, to do other things like bins placement. So we have a target to put more than 7,000 bin containers every year in Spain for the next 6 years. There is a lot of bins that we have to put in place, and to do that we need trucks and we need drivers. So we need to balance how we keep the growth rate about collecting. Meanwhile, we also keep the pace of putting containers on the streets. And from our collection partners, there is also a kind of benefit. So how we can increase the profitability of our partners to make sure that they are doing the right things and in a very efficient way, and gaining the money that they deserve to gain as a private companies, right? That said, that was the opportunity. So here is the scenarios that we were aiming to achieve. One expected that was, okay, let's see if we can achieve this 7%, and one optimistic that was, let's go for the 20% collection time efficiency, right? In terms of course, these scenarios were implying different figures. So in the scenario of saving 7% of the time to collect the same amount of glass, we were talking about 5% in terms of cost. And if we were achieving 20% of time saving in collection, we were talking about 50% in terms of overall cost. So the solution, what we deliver. So leveraging our data, we implement mainly, and to keep the story very simple, 3 AI models. So the first one, which we call the glass bins filling forecasting, is not based on hardware and devices and sensors, but only in the data that we collect over the last 30 years that we have been operating in Spain. Why we cannot predict how is going to be the filling level of each of our containers that are geolocated in our streets. So when we have this model implemented, and we can predict what is going to be the level of filling of each of these glass container, the second model that we define is, okay, now what we need to do is to group these containers considering different variables or characteristics. So first is how, when a trap is going to collect a set of bins, is gonna minimize the total millage that they need to go for, right? Second is how we can, as a target, aim to collect as average our bins around 70% of filling level. And the last one is, okay, how we can minimizing the overfilled bins in order to provide the right quality service to our municipalities, right? So then we came up with this model, which is an bins clustering, grouping the bins that have all these characteristics. And the third one is, okay, once we have these bins clusters, how we are going to collect these clusters in a way that is the most efficient. So considering this field level, we came up with an algorithm that provide our collectors and a collection schedule or collection frequency for each of these groups. And but we leave to the collector to define and to choose what are the right routes to collect these bins. So this is the solution, and how we deliver the solution in a very simple explanation. So we have our data, which is basically our geolocated containers with the filling levels that we have, but also and we have this on a daily basis, but also we have a kind of socio-economic variables that help us to determine how this glass is generated in our neighborhood, in our cities. Then putting together all this data and applying these AI models that I was explaining, the filling forecasting model, the bins clustering, and the clusters collection recommender, we have what we can see in the right hand, which is a schedule for each of the container that we provide to our collectors in order to optimize this capacity. And that's it. So just in time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.